It started with his dog refusing to eat, and ended with a man sacrificing his life for it. He believed his dog was the only one dying, but something in that house was hunting the entire family. They dismissed the warning signs, and it almost killed them all. Now it's your turn. Dismiss them and face the consequences. Or watch until the end and escape that horror. The decision is yours. I'm Marcus, and I've worked as a veterinarian for 15 years. 3 weeks ago, I believed stories like this were complete nonsense. But now, I'm terrified to share it. I've witnessed every type of pet crisis you could think of. Poisonings, injuries, illnesses that defy all medical logic. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for what my neighbor Noah and his dog Winston went through. It all began on a Tuesday morning in October. Just another ordinary day. I was drinking my coffee, preparing for another typical day at the clinic, when my phone buzzed. Noah's voice sounded tense, concerned, but not frantic. Not yet. Marcus, I need your thoughts on something. Winston's behaving strangely around his food. He's always had such a healthy appetite. You know, but this morning he simply refuses to eat. He keeps stepping away from his bowl as if it might attack him. I brushed it off with a chuckle. Dogs become finicky sometimes. Perhaps the food had gone bad. Perhaps he was feeling slightly sick. Basic advice: switch to different food. Watch for additional symptoms. Contact me if things worsen. A typical veterinary discussion between neighbors. Nothing concerning. But Noah phoned again the following day. His voice had shifted. There was a sharpness to it now. A growing fear that triggered my professional alarm bells. Marcus, it's not just about the food now. Winston refuses to go anywhere near his normal feeding area in the kitchen. He keeps fixating on the corner above where his bowl used to sit, just staring, for hours at a time. And the weirdest part, the atmosphere feels different there, much colder. My wife believes I'm losing my mind, but the temperature plummets 10 degrees in that precise location. Now I was concerned. Behavioral shifts paired with environmental anomalies, possibly neurological, possibly sensory. Dogs sense things we cannot. Gas leaks, electrical issues, even specific medical conditions in humans. I recommended bringing Winston in for a complete checkup. No, that's the thing. Noah continued, his voice falling to nearly a whisper. He's completely healthy everywhere else in the house. Energetic, loving, typical. It's solely that kitchen corner. Only during feeding time. And Marcus, I'm beginning to detect something too. Something chemical, sweet, but terribly wrong. Like antifreeze. Perhaps, but there's no antifreeze anywhere in my house. My spine went cold. Antifreeze toxicity is one of the most frequent and fatal dangers to dogs. Ethylene glycol produces a sweet odor that attracts dogs, but it's completely deadly. Even tiny amounts can trigger kidney failure and death within hours. Noah, get Winston here right now. Don't delay. And examine every corner of your house for any potential antifreeze source. Garage, cellar, any car fluids, even certain household cleaners contain it. But instinctively, something seemed off about the entire situation. The confined cold area, the dog's precise behavioral reaction, the odor that appeared and disappeared. In 15 years of veterinary work, I'd never seen anything quite like this. That evening, Noah brought Winston to my clinic for an emergency after-hours visit. The dog appeared completely fine. Temperature normal, reflexes sharp, blood tests came back perfect. No indicators of toxicity, no neurological issues. But when I asked Noah to show me Winston's behavior, something truly disturbing occurred. Noah retrieved a small bag of Winston's usual food, the same brand he'd been enjoying happily for years. The instant he opened the bag, Winston's whole personality shifted. The cheerful, tail-wagging golden retriever became a frightened creature. He pressed against the examination room wall, shaking, his gaze locked on a spot about 3 feet above the food bag, making whimpering noises I'd never heard him make before. And I experienced it too. The temperature in that small room fell dramatically. My breath began forming visible clouds. The fluorescent bulbs flickered once, twice, then stabilized. There was an odor, subtle but unmistakable, sweet and chemical, precisely as Noah had described. "What the hell is going on here?" Noah demanded, his voice breaking with real terror. I had no explanation. Nothing in my medical education, nothing in my 15 years of practice, could account for what we were seeing. But I knew one thing absolutely. Something was deeply, deeply wrong. During the following days, the situation spiraled quickly. Noah contacted me every morning with reports, and each conversation was more troubling than the previous one. Day 3. Winston had completely stopped eating. Not just avoiding his regular food, but turning away from all food, even his preferred snacks. He dropped 3 pounds in 2 days. The cold area in the kitchen had grown, now spanning almost half the room. Noah's wife, Sarah, had begun getting headaches whenever she remained in that space. Day 4. Winston had started displaying signs of extreme anxiety, heavy panting, restless pacing, losing bladder control, but only in the kitchen. In every other part of the house, he stayed perfectly normal. Noah had placed a thermometer in the kitchen. The measurements were unbelievable, while the remainder of the house kept a consistent 72 degrees. The space around Winston's feeding area swung erratically, sometimes plunging to near freezing, sometimes jumping to over 90 degrees. Day 5. Sarah contacted me personally, sobbing. She'd attempted to feed Winston herself, believing maybe he just needed a different person to comfort him. The second she came near his bowl with food, she became severely nauseated. Sickness, lightheadedness, a metallic flavor in her mouth that persisted for hours. She was certain something in the house was poisoning them all. By day 6, I realized we were facing something beyond standard veterinary medicine. Noah's voice over the phone was almost unrecognizable. Drained, terrified, frantic. "Marcus, I need you to come here. Tonight." Winston fainted this morning. He's still breathing, but barely. And Sarah's getting worse. The smell is more intense now. It's moving through the entire house. We can hardly remain inside, but we can't abandon Winston. I reached Noah's house right after sunset. The moment I entered, I grasped why they were so scared. The whole house felt cursed. Not just chilly, but suffocating, as if the very air carried weight. The chemical stench was overpowering now, so intense it seared my throat and made my eyes stream. Winston was resting in the living room, as distant from the kitchen as he could get. He was awake but frail, his breathing shallow and strained. When I checked him over, his pupils were enlarged, his gums were ghostly pale, and his pulse was dangerously slow. Textbook signs of severe poisoning. But his blood work from 3 days earlier had been completely clean. "Noah, we must get Winston to the emergency clinic right now. These are symptoms of acute toxicity, but I need to conduct more thorough tests to identify what's causing it." As we got ready to transport Winston, something occurred that transformed everything. I was carefully lifting the dog, when suddenly the room's temperature crashed. My breath became a visible mist. The lights started flickering wildly, creating a strobing effect that made everything feel unreal and terrifying. And then I noticed it, or rather, I noticed something. A shadow that didn't correspond to any item in the room. A darkness that appeared to move on its own, floating near the ceiling, roughly human-shaped but distorted somehow. Too tall, too narrow, with what appeared to be tentacles or smoke streaming from its borders. Noah noticed my expression transform. "You can see it as well, can't you? It's been growing stronger, more solid. Whatever this creature is, it's destroying Winston, and it's sickening Sarah. And I believe I'm next." The shadow drifted closer. The smell grew until it was nearly unbearable. Winston's breathing became even more difficult. I understood we were losing time, but I also understood something else. This wasn't accidental. This entity, whatever it was, wasn't just randomly killing a dog. It was calculated, purposeful. It was using Winston as a trap, luring the family closer to their own doom. Pay close attention, I told Noah, trying to maintain a calm voice despite the fear I felt. This thing is nourishing itself on your terror, your desperation. It's using Winston to reach you and Sarah. We must get Winston out of this house right now, but we also need to figure out what we're dealing with. As we carried Winston to my car, I questioned Noah about his house's past. Had anything strange occurred before? Any former residents with unusual experiences? Any deaths or disasters connected to the property? The real estate agent mentioned something. Noah said, his voice barely heard over the wind that had begun screaming around us despite the cloudless night sky. The former owner, an old woman named Agnes, she passed away in the kitchen. Natural death, they claimed, but she was discovered beside her dog's food bowl. The dog had been deceased for 3 days. Hunger, they assumed, but the vet couldn't understand why a healthy dog would stop eating. The puzzle was coming together. Agnes hadn't died naturally. She'd been chosen by the same entity that was now hunting Noah's family, and she'd attempted to rescue her dog, exactly like Noah was trying to rescue Winston. At the emergency clinic, Winston's blood tests showed catastrophic organ failure, kidney damage matching antifreeze poisoning, but also liver toxicity, heart problems, and neurological symptoms that made no sense. The attending veterinarian was confused. The toxicology results revealed traces of compounds that shouldn't exist in any natural environment. What type of poison creates this kind of complete system collapse? She asked me privately. The type that isn't actually poison. I answered, the type that's something completely different. While Winston received 4 fluids and supportive treatment, I conducted research I never imagined I'd need as a veterinarian. I contacted my grandmother, who had been raised in the rural South, surrounded by stories and beliefs I'd always rejected as superstition. Grandma, tell me about entities that attack families through their pets. Her tone became gravely serious. Marcus, dear, why are you asking about such evil things? I shared everything. The cold areas, the shadow, Winston's condition, the gradual targeting of the whole family. That sounds like a decay walker, she said softly. An ancient evil spirit that consumes the life energy of families. But it's clever. It always begins with the most innocent, most trusting family member, the family pet. It gradually poisons them, not with earthly toxins, but with spiritual corruption. As the family watches their cherished pet suffer and die, their desperation and sorrow nourish the entity, making it more powerful. How do you defeat it? You don't defeat it, dear. You exile it, but it demands sacrifice. The entity must be given something it treasures more than its current prey. Usually, that means the person it's chosen as its main target must voluntarily face it. I knew that person was Noah. When I came back to the house, Noah and Sarah were ready to flee. They'd chosen to leave their home, thinking escape might protect them. But I knew the truth. This entity had chosen them. Running wouldn't help. Noah, we must finish this tonight. If we don't, it will hunt you wherever you go. And next time, it might not begin with Winston. I described what my grandmother had shared with me. The entity survived on fear and desperation, but it could be expelled if faced directly by its main target. It was dangerous, potentially fatal, but it was their only hope for a peaceful life. What must I do? Noah asked. Return to the kitchen. By yourself. Take Winston's food bowl. And tell the entity to take you instead of Winston. But you must be sincere. You must be truly prepared to give your life for your dog. Noah didn't waver. Despite his fear, despite the real chance that he could die, he took Winston's food bowl and entered the kitchen. I remained in the living room with Sarah, hearing the noises from the kitchen. The temperature fell so drastically that ice started forming on the windows. The house trembled as if experiencing an earthquake. Lights blinked and died throughout the house. Then, abruptly, quiet. Noah came out of the kitchen 5 minutes later, ashen but breathing. It's over, he said quietly. I told it that if it wanted to drain our family's life energy, it could have me instead of Winston. I was serious. I was fully ready to die. And then, it just vanished, like smoke in the breeze. Winston recovered completely within 48 hours. His blood work normalized. His hunger returned fiercer than before. The cold areas vanished from the house. The chemical odor disappeared entirely. But the ordeal transformed all of us. Noah and Sarah relocated from the house within a month, unable to feel safe there despite the entity's removal. They kept me informed about Winston regularly. He lived another 8 healthy, joyful years. As for me, I now notice cases that don't follow medical logic. I ask different questions. I search for patterns that exist beyond the physical realm, because I discovered that sometimes love is the strongest force in existence. Noah's readiness to give his own life for his dog's protection was something the entity couldn't corrupt or devour. Pure, unselfish love was the one thing it couldn't feed on, couldn't twist for its own evil purposes. So when your dog begins behaving oddly around their food, when they appear terrified of things you cannot see, don't write it off as personality changes. Believe their instincts. Dogs can detect malevolent forces long before humans can. They're attempting to shield you the same way you'd shield them. And if you're confronting something that makes no sense, something that endangers those you love, remember Noah's bravery. Sometimes the only way to overcome true evil is to confront it with true love. The kind of love that's prepared to give up everything. Your dog is attempting to warn you about something. Are you paying attention?